I was making tea when the message came in. It was from a number I didn't recognize. No name, no greeting, just a single image. A photograph of a gold-trimmed invitation lying on a marble table. My father's face beamed from the center, caught mid-laugh under bold cursive lettering. Harold Moore's 70th birthday celebration. Saturday, 7 p.m. The Moore Estate, Ashridge Hills. Strictly by invitation only. I blinked, rereading the date. Today. For a moment, I stared at it, paralyzed. There had to be a mistake, a joke. A cruel one, but still a joke. I scrolled up. No other messages, no explanation, just that. My heart pounded in my ears. I hadn't spoken to my father in weeks, but I never imagined this. I was his daughter. His first daughter. How could they plan a milestone birthday and not tell me? Unless I wasn't meant to be told. I grabbed my keys with shaking hands, nearly knocking the cup off the counter. My breath hitched as I stormed to my car. The tea forgotten, the pain rising in my chest like smoke before fire. The drive to Ashridge Hills felt like a blur. Every pothole felt like a slap. Every red light screamed at me to turn back. But I needed to see for myself. I needed to know if this was real. When I pulled up to the estate, the house glowed like a castle. Lights sparkled from the high arched windows. Laughter spilled into the night air. A valet offered to park my car. I waved him off. I didn't come here to play nice. As I approached the gate, the security guard stepped in front of me. "Miss Alina," he said, his voice low and almost apologetic. "I was instructed not to let you in." I blinked. What? He didn't move. "I'm sorry, I have strict orders." I looked past him, saw people toasting champagne. My father raising a glass, his hand on Clarissa's back. He looked thinner than I remembered. Older, fragile. And I wasn't invited. Not forgotten, excluded. I took a step back, my throat burning. I wasn't here to cause a scene. But deep down, something snapped. If they wanted to keep me out, there had to be a reason. And I was going to find out what it was. Not tonight. But soon. And when I did, no one would be able to silence me again. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my apartment, staring at my phone. The image of the invitation, still glowing on the screen. I zoomed in, scanned the background. Someone had taken that picture deliberately, on Clarissa's table, judging by the marble pattern. So why send it to me, who wanted me to know, and who wanted me to stay away? I tossed and turned, my thoughts spinning like a carousel I couldn't stop. I wasn't just angry, I was heartbroken, humiliated. My own father celebrated without me, and he didn't even try to hide it. I called his number, straight to voicemail. I called again, same thing. I wanted to believe he didn't know, that Clarissa had planned everything and kept him in the dark. But then I remembered the look on his face. He was smiling, at them, at everyone but me. By morning, I'd made my decision. If they wanted me to stay out, I was going in. Not through the front gate, not with a dress and a polite smile, but through the cracks they didn't think I could fit through. And I would find out exactly why I'd been cut off. The Moore family was all about image, appearances, everything neatly wrapped in pearls and white lies. But families like mine didn't just fall apart. They rotted quietly from the inside. That afternoon, I drove back to Ashridge Hills. Not to enter, but to watch. I parked down the street with tinted windows, a pair of sunglasses, and a notebook. I knew most of the staff by name. Had grown up running through the halls. I knew the estate better than they did. I wasn't spying, I was remembering. The trash collection came first. Then catering vans, florists, staff members leaving with tipsy smiles. I spotted Clarissa's assistant, Madeline, stepping out with a bag full of decorations. I waited until she turned the corner before I followed on foot. Caught up with her at the gas station nearby. "Hey Mads," I said, slipping off my glasses. She froze, her lips parted in shock. "Alina, I didn't know you were in town." "Yeah, well, hard to miss a party that big." I smiled bitterly. Strange that I didn't get the invite. She hesitated, then quietly, "I shouldn't talk to you." "Why not?" I asked. "What are they hiding?" She looked around, then leaned in. "You didn't hear it from me, but something's not right. Your father, he wasn't okay. Clarissa wouldn't let anyone near him unless she was present, not even his lawyer." I swallowed. "Why?" Madeline shook her head. "He tried to reach out to you. A few weeks ago, I overheard him asking for your number. Next day, Clarissa made him cancel all outside calls. Said it was for his health." My heart dropped. He had tried. And they'd stopped him. Clarissa was never meant to be permanent. She started as my father's secretary, sharp, poised, 20 years younger, and ended up his wife. A polished smile with sharp edges. When I was 16, she moved in with her two sons. By the time I was 18, she'd replaced the photos of my mother on the mantel with glossy pictures of us, all pretending to be one big happy family. I was the only one not smiling. My father told me it was time to embrace the future. Clarissa told me I had my mother's eyes, but said it like it was an inconvenience. She never yelled, never raised a hand. Her weapon of choice was silence, exclusion, subtle digs in the form of compliments. You're so independent, Alina. No wonder you don't need family. Or your father worries about you. It's just hard to connect when you're always distant. She was a master of quiet sabotage. And I let her win. After college, I kept my distance. A few strained holidays, birthday calls, the occasional forced lunch. But I always left feeling like an outsider in my own bloodline. Now, as I sat in my car gripping the steering wheel, I couldn't shake Madeline's words. He tried to reach out to you. Clarissa made him cancel all outside calls. I knew that game. She'd done it before, right after his surgery 3 years ago. I was out of town, and when I called the hospital, they told me Clarissa had listed me as a non-essential contact. I hadn't thought much of it at the time, but now it reeked. I pulled out my phone and opened my voicemail history. Still nothing, but I checked my call log. There it was. A missed call from the house line, 3 weeks ago. No message, no follow-up. I hadn't even noticed it. My throat tightened. Had that been him? Was that his one chance? I pressed the number and held my breath. One rings two. Then her voice. Clarissa Moore speaking. Hi Clarissa, I said, forcing calm into my voice. It's Alina. Silence, then, oh hello dear. You didn't think to tell me about Dad's birthday. A pause. It was intimate, just close family. I am close family. Well, you've made it quite clear over the years that. Stop, I snapped. I know he tried to contact me. I know he wasn't doing well. And I know you're lying. She laughed soft and cold. Alina, darling, you're spiraling again. Don't embarrass yourself. The line went dead. I stared at my phone. My hands trembled. Not with sadness this time, but rage. She could gaslight me all she wanted. She could rewrite the family history. But she couldn't erase the truth. And I was going to find it. 3 days later, I found out from a news article that my father had died. There it was, in cold, emotionless text. Harold Moore, respected judge and philanthropist, passed away in his home, surrounded by family. He is survived by his wife, Clarissa Moore, and their two sons. The family held a private ceremony and requested donations be made in lieu of flowers. No mention of me. Not even a footnote. As if I'd never existed. I dropped the phone on the table, my vision blurring, not because I was surprised, but because it confirmed what I feared. They'd buried him without me. No calls, no invitation, no chance to say goodbye. I sat in my living room, numb. For the first time in years, I felt like that 16-year-old girl again, standing in the hallway of my childhood home, suitcase in hand, watching Clarissa wrap her arms around my father like I was the intruder. Only now, the door was shut for good. I picked up my phone and dialed again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. I texted Clarissa. I just found out about Dad. You had no right to keep me away. No reply. I texted my half-brother Daniel. I hope you're proud. You've buried a man and erased his daughter. Delivered, not read. I threw the phone across the room. It hit the couch and bounced to the floor. I curled into myself, pulling my knees to my chest, shaking. Grief is strange. It doesn't come all at once. It seeps in slowly, pooling in the quiet moments when no one's looking. But with mine came something else. Suspicion. Why the secrecy? Why no obituary until after the funeral? Why keep me out of everything? Then I remembered something. My father never finalized his will. At least not the last time I spoke to him. 6 months ago, he told me over coffee, voice low and cautious. I'm working on some things. Alina, I want to make sure everything's fair. Fair? Clarissa wouldn't have liked that. I stood up, wiping my face. If they thought this was over, they were wrong. If they thought I'd fade into the background quietly, they didn't know me. Not anymore. It came in a brown envelope. No return address. Just my name, handwritten in thick black ink. I almost didn't open it. After the funeral article, I wasn't ready for more reminders of what I'd lost. But something about the handwriting felt familiar. Inside was a single note, folded twice. He trusted you to do the right thing. Look in the old study, the briefcase is yours. L. That was all. No signature, no explanation. Just a cryptic message and the chilling weight of possibility. The study. My father's study. I hadn't stepped foot in that room in nearly 10 years. Clarissa had turned it into a reading lounge after moving in. But I knew better. He kept the real study in the guest house at the back of the estate, the one Clarissa rarely entered. That night, I went back to the Moore estate. This time, I didn't bother with the front gate. I parked in the woods behind the tennis court and crept around the side like I used to as a teenager sneaking in past curfew. The wind was sharp, the moon a pale witness above me. I kept my flashlight low and quiet. The guest house door was still rusted at the hinge. I pushed it open gently and stepped inside. Dust clung to everything. The air smelled of cedar, old paper, and something faintly metallic. But the room looked untouched. Books lined the walls. A cracked leather chair sat beside a cold fireplace. Framed certificates on the wall, faded with time, and in the corner under a tarp was the briefcase. Brown leather, brass clasps, monogrammed with the letters HM. My heart beat wildly as I pulled it into the light. It wasn't locked. Inside I found a bundle of sealed letters, tied with a red ribbon. Several bank documents, all recent, all showing transfers to a private account in my father's name. A handwritten will, pages yellowed and signed, dated 6 months ago. A black USB stick, taped to the lid. I sat down hard in the chair, breath caught in my throat. The will had my name on it. I was listed as the primary beneficiary. Not Clarissa. Not her sons. May. Everything, the estate, the savings, even the foundation, was to be split in my favor, with instructions to honor the legacy of her mother. He hadn't forgotten me. He hadn't abandoned me. They had kept me from him. And now I had proof. But I also had a new problem. This will was real. But I was certain Clarissa had a different one. A newer, forged version. One that cut me out completely. And she had already acted on it. I stared at the USB stick. If the will wasn't enough to fight them, maybe what was on this flash drive would be. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I sat at my kitchen table, the USB drive clutched in my palm like a loaded weapon. My laptop hummed softly as I slid it into the port, unsure what I would find, but certain it would change everything. It held only one folder, titled Elena. Inside were 4 video files, each time-stamped, recorded from my father's study. His face appeared on screen pale, thinner than I remembered but alert, his eyes sharp. "If you're watching this, it means something has gone wrong," he began. "I've rewritten my will. Clarissa doesn't know. And she mustn't. She's not who I thought she was." My breath caught. I trusted her. For years I believed the excuses, the isolation, the medication changes, the secrecy. But after that fall last year, when I started to question things, she became controlling, paranoid. He paused, glancing off camera. "I know she's watching my calls. She's blocked me from speaking to Elena. I tried to leave messages, but something's not right. I'm afraid if I press too hard, I won't make it out of this house alive." The video ended. I sat frozen. My father had known. He knew Clarissa was isolating him, and he tried to protect me. And now he was dead. I clenched my jaw. Enough was enough. I called her the next morning. My voice was calm, but my blood ran hot. "Clarissa, we need to talk." Her tone was syrupy sweet. "Elena, always dramatic. Can't we grieve in peace? I know about the briefcase." Silence. "I have the will, the real one. And a video. I want answers." She exhaled slowly, then dropped the act. "You're poking around in things you don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly now. You cut me out, you hid his death, and you forged something to replace his will." "Watch your mouth," she hissed. "You don't want a legal war. You'll lose." "I already lost," I said, "but now I've got nothing left to fear, and I've got the truth." There was a long pause, then, "Don't be foolish, Elena. You're not equipped for this fight." She hung up. I stared at my reflection in the window. Maybe she was right. But I had my father's voice, his words, his will. And I wasn't fighting alone anymore. I found his doctor's name in the folder of bank statements. Dr. Francis Lyle, longtime family physician. Discreet and loyal, too loyal. Maybe he'd been with us since I was 12. He once gave me stitches, after I fell off my bike in the garden. But he hadn't returned a single one of my calls since my father's death. I decided to show up. His clinic was a modest one, tucked behind a row of trees on Greystone Avenue. Polished brass nameplate, crisp white walls, receptionist too chipper. "I'm here to see Dr. Lyle," I said. "Tell him it's Elena Moore." She frowned. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," I said, "but he'll want to see me." 10 minutes later, he emerged from the hallway. Older, frailer than I remembered, but his eyes widened when he saw me. His smile faltered. "Elena," he said, "this is unexpected." "I'll make it quick," I replied. "We need to talk, privately." He hesitated, then gestured to his office. I stepped in. Books lined the wall. A model of a human heart sat on the desk. I stayed standing. You were with him until the end, I said. Weren't you? He nodded slowly. Yes. Then you know something's off. Why didn't anyone call me? He sighed. That wasn't my decision. Clarissa, I asked. He didn't answer. You treated my father. You knew about his health. His state of mind. You knew he was trying to reach out to me. Elena's. I have a video. He was scared. Of her, and he said you were in on the medication changes. His eyes snapped to mine. You changed his prescriptions. I continued, made him weaker. Slower, easier to manipulate. I had no choice, he said at last. Voice strained. She threatened to ruin me. She said he was becoming erratic. She controlled his schedule, his calls, even his food. I was a puppet. You let her control his care. I didn't hurt him, he said quickly. But yes, I looked away. I filed reports I shouldn't have. I told people he was fine, even when I saw signs that terrified me. You knew, I whispered. You knew he was dying. He sat down, defeated. I didn't know when, but I knew it was only a matter of time. I pulled the flash drive from my pocket and set it on the desk. This is going to court. I need your statement, the truth. He looked at it like it might burn him. If I speak, I'll lose everything. If you don't, I said, so will I. He didn't respond right away, but I saw it in his eyes. He was tired of lying. And maybe, just maybe, he was ready to do what was right. The only person my father ever trusted more than himself was his old lawyer, James Arkwell, a sharp-witted man in his 60s with silver hair and a voice like sandpaper. He handled everything from estate planning to real estate, and he had been in our lives for over 20 years, until Clarissa suddenly replaced him with her own firm last fall. Now I knew why. I found him at his private office downtown, tucked between a bookstore and a bakery. The second he saw me, his expression softened. Elena, he said, standing to greet me. I was wondering when you'd come. You knew, I said. He nodded grimly. I suspected. But Clarissa made sure I was cut off after your father asked me to draft a new will. She had her new legal team draw up a cleaner version. I pulled out the copy from the briefcase and laid it on his desk. Is this the one he told you to draft? He scanned the pages carefully, then nodded, word for word. This is his handwriting. This is the one we discussed. I even have an early typed version stored in my system. Can we prove it? Yes, and if you still have that video footage you mentioned. We have more than just a paper trail, we have intent. I swallowed. Clarissa has her own version, one that leaves me out entirely. She's bluffing, he said, or worse. She's forged something. Either way, she's vulnerable now. I leaned forward. I want to contest everything. The will, the estate. I want the truth out in the open. He looked at me, eyes searching. This won't be easy. She'll drag your name through the mud. Accuse you of emotional instability. Of estrangement. She has money and power and contacts. I have evidence, I said, and I have a voice. He gave a small, tired smile. Then let's make it count. 2 weeks later, we filed the challenge in probate court. Clarissa's legal team responded with an official version of the will, dated 3 months before my father's death. It was typed, notarized, but full of inconsistencies, misspelled names, mismatched signatures, and a sudden removal of all personal bequests, including the family home. They underestimated me. We submitted our copy. The judge ordered both wills to undergo forensic handwriting analysis. A handwriting expert confirmed my father had written and signed my version. But the twist came at the preliminary hearing, when the judge allowed the flash drive video to be played in court. The room fell silent. There he was, my father, tired, but clear, laying out his fears, naming Clarissa, pleading for me to hold on to the truth. When the lights came back on, even Clarissa looked rattled, and for the first time, I saw something in her eyes I never thought I'd see. Fear. The courtroom was cold, polished, unforgiving. Clarissa sat in the front row beside her 2 sons, dressed in a sleek black suit that screamed control. But her face had lost its usual arrogance. She looked pale, her eyes flicking toward the judge like she already knew the outcome. I sat on the opposite side, with Mr. Arkwell beside me, his fingers calmly resting on a thick folder of evidence. My hands were shaking, but my spine was straight. The judge, a tall woman with sharp glasses and a sharper tone, addressed the room. We have reviewed the handwriting analysis, the video evidence, and both versions of the last will and testament of the late Harold Moore. She turned the page, then continued. The court recognizes the handwritten document, dated 6 months prior to his death, as authentic and admissible. The testimony in the video, corroborates the intent of the decedent, and the audiovisual timestamp supports that it was made voluntarily and without coercion. Clarissa flinched. In accordance with this valid will, the following assets are to be distributed as follows. The Moore estate, including property and personal holdings, is to be transferred to Alina Moore. The trust fund previously divided is to be merged and directed under Alina Moore's supervision, with a percentage designated to charitable initiatives honoring her mother. Clarissa Moore and her sons are entitled to a severance trust of modest amount, as stipulated by the original document. Clarissa stood up trembling. "This is a joke," she said loudly. He was not in his right mind. That video was manipulated. The judge looked at her, unimpressed. "You're welcome to file an appeal, Mrs. Moore, but I must caution you, further forgeries and obstruction may result in criminal charges." Clarissa turned to me, eyes blazing. "You always knew how to play the victim." I stood slowly calm. "No, I just stopped letting you write my story." She stormed out of the courtroom. A week later, I stood in my father's study. The house was silent, eerily so. The walls no longer whispered rejection. The photos Clarissa had hung were gone, replaced with my father's original collection. Snapshots of me and Mom on beach vacations, messy birthday cakes, and blurry moments of joy. I found the last letter in the desk drawer. "Alina, if you're reading this, you already know the truth. I'm sorry for all the years I let distance come between us. I thought I was protecting you from my mistakes. I never stopped loving you, and I never stopped being proud. Take this legacy and make it yours. Not in my image, but in your own. And always, always remember your worth. Love, Dad." I cried for the first time in weeks. Not out of sadness, but release. I wasn't the unwanted daughter. I wasn't forgot. I had been silenced, pushed aside, but I fought back. And I won. Now this house, this legacy, would not be a monument to Clarissa's control. It would be a home again. I walked to the garden, barefoot, and felt the soil under my feet. The wind carried my father's voice in the silence of dusk. "You were always enough.